Yasher koach, Finn. You have done a beautiful job here this morning. You have shown up as your full self, so full of love and so full of wisdom. And you taught this morning both profound and necessary Torah. In your Devar Torah, you spoke about how Rebekah gives birth to twins, Jacob and Esau. You shared how different Jacob and Esau were as children and then as young adults, but also how toxic their relationship became. Specifically, you suggested that their jealousy, their anger, and their strife has a lot to do with how their parents raised them, treating them both as if they were exactly the same and expecting the same things out of both of them, even though they were two very different kids and needed very different things in order to thrive. And you drew so profoundly on your own experience to teach us that it doesn't have to be this way, that your parents worked so hard to see you and your brother as beautiful and unique individuals and to support you as you each needed, to which you attribute the loving relationship between you and your brother. As you drew on our tradition to suggest that had Rebekah and Isaac been able to truly see each of their children for who they really were, their unique gifts, their unique challenges, and invested in them accordingly, our whole story might have unfolded differently. I love imagining that, Finn, how each brother might have shined and shown up in the world in a way that could have changed our story. As it is, our story unfolds as you described, and only many, many years later do the brothers find one another and heal their relationship. But Jewish tradition amplifies their early encounters and ultimately casts Esau as the eternal bad guy. He goes on to symbolize in our sacred texts the Christian Roman Empire, an entity set on the destruction of the Jewish people. Esau's bad rap, Esau's parents' poor choices, Esau's story set in stone, all sparked by his differences, which you noticed and lifted up with a gentle empathy instead of harsh critique. Esau was different. He was born with a shock of red hair, ruddy. He wanted to run and play in the field. He was physical, a hunter, strong, hairy. He was exactly who he was, but in our story, his differences are understood as deficits, as his parents seem to measure him not by his own worth, but by what was normal for Jacob, their other son. It makes me think of this pearl of wisdom given to my clergy cohort when I was studying mindfulness with the Institute for Jewish Spirituality. In setting the group dynamics and our norms, our teacher, Rabbi Sam Feinsmith, said to us, "Please remember that other people are not failed versions of you." I love this. We don't have to correct each other, he insisted, into how we wish our learning partners would be. But even with the best of intentions, and mostly subconsciously, this orientation too often defines how we experience people who are different from us and what we expect from them. But Esau is not a failed version of Jacob. Esau is his own person, makes his own choices, has his own strengths, deals with his own weaknesses, and comes to the world in his own way, shaped by his own struggles. And this matters because it is our own unique selves and the lens through which we individually see the world that makes a person who they are and gives us the unique gifts that we have to contribute to the world. Had Esau been able to show up as himself, had he been enabled to show up as himself, imagine how he might have contributed in ways unique only to him. He could have taught us about the field, about the relationship between human beings and animals, about play, about strength. Instead, he was smushed into a Jacob-shaped box and found himself unable to contribute much at all. But what if he could? This is, in fact, a question that we all must answer at some point. Given our own unique struggles, experiences, and qualities, what do we uniquely each have to contribute? And actually, it's Rebekah, Jacob and Esau's mother, that best understands this question here in Parshat Toldot. While pregnant with the twins, we read, "V'yidrotzetzu habanim bakirba." The children struggled in her womb. And Rebekah said, "Im ken, lama ze anochi." If so, why do I exist? Now, this question gets interpreted in a lot of different ways. Many commentators read it as a cry of anguish, that the twins struggling in her womb were causing her pain and fear. So they hear despair in her voice, as if she were saying, "This is so horrible. If it's going to feel like this, I'd rather not be alive." Or maybe, "Why me, God?" Surely, in ancient days, a risky pregnancy could be that terrifying. And we can't actually hear the tone of her voice, but we do have context clues. God's response to Rebekah does not seem to be a reaction to her despair or fear. Rather, God answers her saying, "You will give birth to 2 nations, and the younger will rule the older." It seems to be an answer about Rebekah's purpose in the moment. So perhaps her question, "Lama ze anochi," why do I exist, or why am I me, is not at all a question about despair, but rather a question of her purpose. Nachmanides, the mystical rabbi and commentator, picks up on this, asserting the correct interpretation, in my opinion, he writes, is that she said, "If it shall be so with me, lama ze anochi, why am I in the world?" Rebekah has a struggle within her, quite literally. It shapes her. And she seems to perceive, according to Ramban, that from this unique identity, she has something unique to contribute. Esau, had he been given the chance, had something unique to offer too. In fact, later, when he and Jacob meet, it is Esau who forgives with abundant generosity. His struggles as a young man have shaped him, and so he knows how to bring something healing. His differences don't manifest as a deficit, but as a sacred offering. We don't see a lot of this kind of thinking right now. Those with perceived differences, including differences forged by struggle, are being cast again as the eternal bad guy, the enemy, as broken, wrong, in need of fixing, as a problem. This week, for one very challenging example, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the president's ability to require transgender Americans to have their sex at birth on their passports, undoing a decades-old ruling that a person can have their actual gender identity on their passport. We can imagine how this will play out when a person who presents as female has an M on their passport and is questioned publicly about who they are. Lawyers for this administration assert that this is fair. Why? Because the new policy treats transgender people the same as other Americans, requiring everyone's passport to reflect the sex on their original birth certificate. The disingenuousness of this claim notwithstanding, we can hear echoes of Isaac and Rebekah suggesting it was fair to treat Esau exactly as Jacob was treated, even though the impact on them would be so profoundly different. In this case, countless trans folks will find themselves in greater danger and diminished in their dignity because their differences are being cast as deficits to be corrected instead of as celebrated for the unique lens that they might bring to this world. Finn, you have invited us to imagine how differently the story might have unfolded had Esau been seen and loved and raised for who he truly was. Imagine that being the case for all people. What would that look like? Instead of trans folks being smushed into a Jacob-shaped box, if we could listen and learn the wisdom from those whose experiences have taught them to see beyond the binary, how much we need that in the world today. How stuck we get when everything has to be black and white. Or imagine if we chose to truly listen and learn the wisdom of our immigrant and refugee neighbors, those whose experiences have taught them to see the world beyond borders, or through the lens of a resilience that many of us have not ever needed to know. Imagine if we would listen for the wisdom of women, of Muslims, of First Nation people, of Jews, of all people whose struggle or whose strength or whose qualities have given them or us a unique wisdom and therefore a unique contribution. Imagine how the story would unfold then. Philosopher Martin Buber taught that every person is here for a particular reason, with a particular purpose to fulfill. If that purpose did not exist, then neither would that person exist. I can't fulfill your purpose, and you can't fulfill mine. We need our differences in order to build this world and live in this world and repair this world. To smush one person down into the shape of another, to try to clean up our differences or pretend there is one right way of being and the rest of the ways are wrong or less worthy, doesn't just destroy a soul. It arrests the world's redemption. We at CBE have been calling on our community for a lot these days, particularly to show up for our immigrant neighbors. And I wonder if when we in our community get those emails or we get that phone call, if we tend to think, they probably don't mean me. I'm not a justice Jew. I'm just a parent. They don't mean me, my body is older now. They don't mean me, I'm just a kid. They don't mean me, I'm more of a Torah study Jew, or a ritual Jew, a chesed Jew, a non-Jew. Do they mean me? We not only mean you, but we need you, each you, for the unique person that you are, for the unique contribution that you make, for the strength you have and the wisdom that you teach, for the truth you know like no other person knows. We need you to say yes and show up with your whole self. Finn, we are quite grateful for your wise teaching this morning, for the ways that you have shown up here with your unique offerings, a contribution reflective of your unique purpose in the world. We are so proud of you and truly cannot wait to see what you do next. Yasher koach and mazel tov and Shabbat shalom.